Hello, my name is Hannah Griffin, and I'm the club director for Hurricane Volleyball Club in High Point, North Carolina. I have experience as an assistant coach at Bluefield College with their men's program back in 2015, along with coaching at Phoenix Academy in High Point and now Caldwell Academy in Greensboro. I've had requests from young athletes at my summer volleyball camps to produce a series of videos explaining the differences between the three major volleyball formations, the 4-2, 6-2, and 5-1. These numbers may seem very confusing, but once you realize what the numbers stand for, it makes a lot more sense. The first one is a 4-2. The first number in each of these formations represents the numbers of hitters you have available, attackers, on the court. The second number represents how many setters you have on the court at a time. So in a 4-2, you have 4 attackers and 2 setters. In a 6-2, you have 6 attackers, 2 of them are setters. And in a 5-1, you have 5 attackers and only 1 setter. When you're playing in a game, only one of the setters on the court, regardless of whether you have 1 or 2, is the active setter. In a 4-2, your setter, who's on the front row, is always your active setter. In a 6-2, your active setter is your setter who's in the back row. In a 5-1, your setter is active the entire time. A 4-2 is the most commonly used formation in early volleyball, such as middle school and 12U to 14U play. In a 4-2, you have your setter in the front row. This allows for you to have only 2 other attackers on the front row, an outside hitter and a middle. This is helpful for young players because then the setter is allowed to attack and tip and block and jump as well. If your setter were a back row setter, they would not be able to attack while in the front row, or it would be a back row attack. Back row attacks are illegal if it happens in front of the 10-foot line. 4-2 is also simple in the fact that as soon as the setter rotates to the front row, they become the active setter. When you get into a 6-2, whichever setter is in the back row is the active setter. This allows the front row to have 3 attackers, and the person who is in right front is the right side hitter. This is more beneficial to athletes who are more experienced because then the setter is able to play and set up the attack in the front row, but they have to move back to right back for defense and be prepared to dig. This is also confusing for setters because a lot of times balls are tight to the net. If a ball is tight to the net, the setter is not allowed to attack it because that would be a violation of a back row attack. So in a 6-2, setters often have to dig balls out of the net, or they have to pull balls off the net for the other players on their team to send over. A 5-1 is a really good option for experienced players because you're able to keep the same setter for the entire match. This is helpful in consistency, but it's also very tiring for your setter because regardless of where she is on the court, she has to get to her base and be ready to set. While she is in the front row, her base is in right front. When she's in the back row, her base is right back. While she's in the back row, there is a right side hitter in the front row who is in that zone. When she is in the front row, she is able to attack the ball. This is hard for young setters to remember and to keep in the back of their head while they're playing, and often young setters will forget and try to tip the ball or attack it, and then they will get called for a violation, an illegal back row attack. As we're discussing these 3 formations, I'll continue to explain the positive parts of these and the negative ones. I'll be drawing out how the rotations move. Each coach may have a slightly different approach, but as I competed through high school, travel, and college, this was the norm. This is the normal thing you should know as a young volleyball player. So the first one we will be talking about is a 4-2. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you're able to enjoy the rest of our videos as well.